continue. We have figured out how to take that particular enzyme inside of bacteria to target specific genes. So that is CRISPR, I think, right? It allows us to
I think
zero in on a gene.
It's like
and
looking
replace.
at humans as, like a computer, like it's ones and zeros, like the coding, like you can.
So
Is that what it is?
I would use like if you imagine a human as a modular program, right, with a bunch of different functions that each of them do different things. CRISPR allows you to figure out exactly which function would be doing what, and then replace that with something else. So I think like the application of CRISPR is designer baby. And again, I use this term obviously like to describe all of that.
And this is kind of what Yuval kind of gets into is, so say we start editing, we have designer babies now, and they're healthier and they're a little maybe stronger because they're not
and they live longer. Yeah, let's say all three. They're happier too.
At a certain point, there's just going to be us like regular people that were born.
Yeah. So this is I think Yuval's techno-humanist. So he's got and he does this really well. So I really recommend this book, folks. Like you really gotta read this. But again, he says this many times. The point is to broaden your perspective into all of these potential futures.
Yeah.
What are the humanist goals and objectives? Happier, stronger, healthier, and live longer. Okay. Does this particular technological revolution fit into that? Yes, it does. What would the end goal look like if this was achieved, right? And I think this is his techno-humanist prediction, which is the useless class and the class that has access or can pay for, or however it manifests itself in the future, right? Like, because I don't imagine this is something that would be covered under universal healthcare of any kind, right? But I don't know, like, you're essentially opening the door to this techno-humanist where you can literally make biological differences, something that was never available, right? No. But you can point to your veins and say, hey, blue blood, that's why I'm better than you. Like, you can potentially actually do that. So that's where the useless class would come in, is like the folks that don't have access to this. Sure, their lives might be a lot better. Maybe they have universal basic income. But there is...
He says, like, before this, death and illness treated everybody kind of the same.
Yeah, the same, yeah.
And now it could potentially not.
Yeah.
Based on wealth, right?
I think based on wealth and... Well, so wealth because of capitalism, right? Or because of liberalism, or whatever, the wealth because of the institutions that we live with today. I think the question that he poses that I find more interesting is, can the institutions that we have today keep up with the pace of the technological revolutions driven by humanism? Okay, I said a lot there. What do I mean by that?
So he says, he goes through them, right? And he's like, Nazism didn't work, or fascism didn't work, socialism didn't work, communism, capitalism so far has worked.
So, and he'll also answer the question why, right? It's that I actually really enjoyed that section. And this kind of fits with like this larger thought that I think, that I've been reading about, that's like, so what is the driving force of history? I think like technology. I think like it enables certain things. And if the thing that it is enabling, as long as the actors in the world game kind of react to that in the right way, then their ideology is the one that end up winning, right? So the communism argument is that data processing. I think this is that in Dataism chapter he'll have that the key.
Real quick, something I took away from the book is that like data processing. Yeah. And as a human, I'm an information processor.
Oh, so what are the
go back to your thing. Go back to communism.
That is a good aside. Okay, so why? Okay, it was that centralized versus decentralized in terms of data processing. The four elements that if your religion is Dataism, what is better? if you have more data points, if you have more people, right? If you have more connections between the people,
Yeah.
if you have more different types of people, and then there's a fourth thing. I forget what the fourth thing is. But the idea is that the capitalist, what's the word, credence or whatever, the capitalist ideology embraced a better data processing system. It was decentralized. The story goes, I think, when Gorbachev went to the UK to understand what Thatcherism was and why it was so successful, he sent some emissaries to go there, and they spent the entire day walking around London and saying, hey, this. And the one thing that he said is hey, take me to a grocery store, because I've been to all these grocery stores and you guys have no lines for bread. But in Russia, we have so many lines for bread. So I want to meet the person who is supplying bread.
Yeah.
Who's in charge of that?
Yeah, I remember this.
And the confused everybody's no, who's in charge of bread? What does that even mean? And it's so decentralized, right? It's to the whim of the consumer and the producers, and we leave it up to the market to kind of decide that. The idea being the market is the most efficient data processing thing that we know of. And so from the lens of Dataism, that's kind of why capitalism worked. As governments and stuff become more centralized and blockers for, I feel like I'm going to go on a blockchain rant apparently because I've been using the word decentralized all the time. Decentralized and distributed. But, okay. So yeah, another key aspect of that is the embracing of the technology of the time. The technology of the early 19th century supported centralized stuff. Let's have all the machines here and churn them out and make nuclear bombs. It was really good at that, but it wasn't good at figuring out what the price of bread should be or whatever.
Yeah.
However you want to view that. So yeah, that's the data processing side is neat. What I actually a weird thought that I had when I was reading that, and I'm going to open the book because I really want to see what the fourth thing is. It's driving me insane. I really liked how the tenets of Dataism in terms of, okay, to be a better dataist, I need to improve my data processing in these 4 ways. That's actually exactly how the human brain evolves. More neurons, more, just more longer cells, more connections between neurons. I think it's either white or gray matter. I think it's gray matter, but gray matter is essentially the connections between cells. Sapiens has just a lot of that. More different types of cells. So the neuron is an incredibly complicated cell. There are all sorts of enzymes that control whether information flows from one neuron to the other, and there's all types of weird circuitry that even acts as a buffer. And whatever the fourth one is also is still in line with this, how the brain has evolved. I thought that was a really interesting, and I remember holding on to that.
Listen to the names of these chapter titles.
Okay.
So part 1, Homo sapiens conquer the world. So this is kind of
this is the summary of
Sapiens.
Sapiens. Summary of Sapiens.
The Anthropocene, the human spark. Okay, part 2.
Yeah.
Homo sapiens gives meaning to the world. Okay.
These are all the ideologies. All the religions are covered here.
Storytellers, the odd couple, the modern covenant, the humanist revolution.
Yeah.
Part 3, Homo sapiens loses control. The
time
bomb in the laboratory.
Time bomb in the laboratory.
The great decoupling, the ocean of consciousness, and the data religion.
Yeah. So I think the final 2 chapters, the second to last is the techno-humanist one. The last one is the Dataism. It's somewhere close to the Dataism. It's got 4 bullet points. I wonder if we can find it.
It's such a dense and heavy book.
It really is.
The quality of paper in this particular book is exquisite.
Can I? Yeah.
Yeah, feel this.
Yeah, right. It's really good. Yeah.
No, is yours
Mine is similar too. If you touch the pages.
Get it printed on typically you would print art books with this type of paper.
Yeah. Well, it is an art book. No. You know what? I'm not gonna go with that.
Information wants to be free. That's one of the subheadings. Capitalism, Dataism.
I found it.
Began in
So
there we go.
Yeah. So from a dataist perspective, it is 383.
Oh, okay. Right there.
Yeah. you can interpret the entire human species as a data processing system with individual humans serving as its chips. If so, you can understand the whole of history as a process of improving this system's efficiency through 4 basic methods. Increase the processors, increase the variety of processors, increase the number of connections, and increasing the freedom of movement along existing connections.
Let's dive into this a little further. This is like really simplistic and just like really it makes a lot of sense.
Really intuitive, right? It absolutely makes sense. Is how do you make an entire system better? Have more actors, have more diverse actors, have these actors talk to each other more, and help these actors move around. Right? Like that makes a lot of sense, right?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's take it a step further. Okay, so 1, increasing the number of processors. A city of 100,000 people has more computing power than a village of 1,000 people.
Exactly.
2, increasing the variety of processors. Different processors may use diverse ways to calculate and analyze data. Using several kinds of processors in a single system may therefore increase its dynamism and creativity. The conversation between a peasant, a priest, and a physician may produce novel ideas that would never emerge from a conversation between 3 hunter-gatherers.
Right? Yeah. So the way I feel like this is there in the brain is there are so many different types of neuron circuits that drive, say, how we experience pain, right? Or how we experience any kind of sensation. And just the sheer variety in that, I think, makes it such a complex organ in the body, right? And it's true about data as well, right? So I work in tech, and I feel like a lot of this is resonated with me in both like at a biological as well as a corporate level. So